So, my name is Willie Cartwright, and I am the creator of Save to Sane YouTube page, and I also have a book coming out by the same title, but we'll talk about that later. I am an entrepreneur, a advocate, and a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an advocate, I'm an author, and a former Christian. I spent 40 plus years, most of my life, as a Christian. And about 5-6 years ago, I decided to let go all of organized religion, including Christianity. And then I decided to become an advocate for those like me who wanted to leave the faith, but was having a hard time and had questions about leaving the faith. I grew up in the deep South, Birmingham, Alabama. My mother had us in church forever, all the time. She was a minister prior to her passing about 4 years ago now. So my whole life growing up, the only things that were important was church and school. And as I went through, I started to kind of reevaluate things. And so this is what got us to where we are, got me to where I am today. So I am a former Christian, a former believer, a now what I would call myself a non-believer. And when I say non-belief, I do not believe in any God's personal saviors, deity of any sorts. I can't pinpoint when I actually started questioning my faith, but I do know that I always had questions because a lot of things didn't make sense to me at even an early age. And when I would ask questions, I would either get answers that didn't make sense or I would get no answers at all. And oftentimes, many of the so-called experts or the people who are supposed to know the answers had no clue how to answer the questions that I was answering. But when I got to college, I started exploring other religions, and I got exposed to some other religions, Islam, the Five Percenters, Black Hebrews, Black Hebrew Israelites, and some other stuff. But it was just a quest that started with the fact that a lot of questions that I had growing up as a kid about Christianity and the Bible and Jesus and God could not be answered, or at least not answered to my satisfaction. So I can't pinpoint, but I think it was always something in me that had questions, and I kind of went from that point. Wow, that's a good one. So as far as close friends, and I'm kind of breaking down into subcategories, people who have known me for a long time and people who grew up with me, it was a multitude of responses. It was I can't believe that you're not a Christian anymore. How dare you? It was challenges. It was, I guess you never was a Christian before. There were also questions as to, okay, what led you to this point? I have questions as well. What do you think about this? Ironically, I would get messages on social media from some of these old friends who didn't want to go public with their questions, but just wanted to talk to me about exploring outside of Christianity and some of the questions that I had. What I would call newer friends, it's funny because in the last, I would say 5 to 10 years, my circle of friends have expanded to include pretty much everybody of every religion imaginable. I have friends who are Sikhs, I have friends who are Wiccan, I have friends who are Muslim, I have friends who are Hindu, I have friends who are Buddhist, I have friends who are non-believers, I have friends who are straight atheists, or agnostic, humanists, the whole 9 yards. So most of those friends, what I would call new friends, they were fine with it. I mean, it was really a non-issue. It was a non-issue. Family, my sister and I are really close. She just kind of like, you do you, I do me, we're good. Now, my mother, on the other hand, as I mentioned before, she was a starch Christian, and always been a Christian all of her life, all of her family growing up. And like I said before, she was a minister. She didn't say anything directly to me when I first told her. It took me a while. It took me about a year after my wife and I made a decision, and then for me to really tell her. But once I told her, she really didn't have anything to say. But a couple of weeks later, I found out from my sister that she was really unhappy, And she pretty much called me every name in the book, everything from the Antichrist to, atheist to I'm evil to, she even, kind of wished bad on my wife and our business as a way of bringing us back to Jesus. And so that was kind of hurtful, but it wasn't unexpected. I expected it. But again, she never really said anything directly to me. And unfortunately, her and I never had the opportunity to really have a long discussion about it because she passed away before I could really sit down and talk to her about why I felt the way I felt. And that's pretty much, as I always say, it is what it is. There are people who question it. There are people who are on board. There are people who feel the same way I feel, but they're, as we call it, they're in the closet because they don't want to damage relationships. They don't want to damage their positions at their jobs, or they don't want to lose customers if they're business owners, so forth and so on. So I feel like that I'm in a unique position to where I can be an advocate, a voice for those people. And fortunately for me, I don't have the same concerns that many of those people have. Other people in my family who are not happy, I guess is the best way to say it, with my decision. I was probably never really that close to many of them to begin with, except maybe there's an aunt who is, pretty much Christian, and she don't really say anything to me. Most of my family, they kind of don't approach me with it. It's kind of hard to explain. I hardly ever get criticized or scrutinized by anybody in my family. Even my mother would never come to me directly and say, you atheist or you antichrist or you whatever. She had to kind of tell my sister, and then my sister told me. So that's kind of how we are with that. But that's a great question. I don't like the term. First of all, I don't like the term atheist. Period. I don't like categories, and I don't like boxes. Um, I'm not an atheist because, from my understanding, the definition of atheist is those who don't believe not only in a God or any type of personal savior or deity, they also don't believe in anything outside of the body, anything that's supernatural. I happen to believe that there are a lot of things that we don't know. There are a lot of things that the mind, the brain is responsible for outside of what we know from a scientific standpoint. I think there are, I believe in energy. I believe in, what is it? I believe that you can manifest things in your life. I believe that you can put yourself in a position to have good things happen to you by how you think. That's not from a God or a deity, and that might be, for lack of a better word, they may be under the category of a superstition. So that would preclude me from calling myself an atheist. It's easier for me to say what I'm not as it is for me to say what I am. And also, for me, it's not important for me to label myself as to what I am. I believe what I believe, and I am what I am. I let other people put labels on me. I don't get angry or upset if someone calls me an atheist. Atheist is a word that has been demonized, especially in the religious community. And I know a lot of atheists, and they are fantastic people. So I have no issue with that. It's just not something that I label myself as. So I created Save to Sing. I came up with the name Save to Sing. It's kind of tongue in cheek because Christians are talking about they're saved, they're saved, they're saved. And when I left Christianity, and I was able to look at it from an objective standpoint, and some of the antics and some of the things that I saw going on in church services or Christian behavior or mindset or thought process, to me, borderline on insanity at times. Not everybody, but some of the antics with some of the people and some of the things I saw. So I just thought it'd be great to title my YouTube page From Saved to Sane, as well as my latest book that will be released shortly. And that book is titled From Saved to Sane, My Journey Away from Christianity and Why I Think the African American Community why Christianity has been a detriment to the African American community. So it's a working title. But we do have the From Saved to Sane, My Journey Away from Christianity. That part is set. So yeah, so that's why, and so the reason why I created that YouTube page, and it's more than just a YouTube page. There's a TikTok page where I do the 1 minute TikTok, and I address some of the issues in the Bible and Christianity in the 1 minute segment that I can, and then I expound on it on my YouTube page. But the reason why I created this entire entity is because first of all, I wanted to be an advocate for those who felt the same way I felt, but wasn't in the fortunate position to be able to express it or to really pursue it. And so from that standpoint, I'm an advocate. I have people come to me and say, I have questions about this. What do you think about this? What's your experience in this and that? I do have questions. I do have concerns. And my position is that I'm not anti-Christianity or anti-religion. What I am is pro being able to believe or not believe the way you choose to without being ostracized. I'm also a person that is concerned with or have a problem with many of the laws that all of us as a society have to follow, but many of those laws are based on the beliefs of one religion. Any religion would be bad, but based on one religion in this country, that would be Christianity. So I think it's unfair for those of us who are not Christians, those of us who may be of other faiths and other beliefs, those of us who may not be of any faith or any belief, having to follow laws that are created and based on Christianity. So that's the second reason. So first, becoming an advocate for those who are not able to speak out, who have questions and have concerns. I'm here to tell them it's all right to have questions. I think it's normal to have questions and have concerns. I've just gone one step further and I've explored those concerns and those questions, and it got me to where I am now. And then secondly, I just have a problem with us having to follow laws, all of us as a complete society having to follow laws that are created based on, a lot of those laws are based on the Christian beliefs, the Christian belief system. And I would have that problem with any religion. If I was in the Middle East and I had to follow laws that was created by people of the Islamic belief, same thing. So yeah, those are the two biggest reasons. And I'm fascinated by religion, the creation of religion, how it came about, and the effects that religion has on our society, our subculture, our sub-society, the world at large, and specifically African American people. The connection between Christianity and African Americans is multi-layered, and I do my best to investigate those layers and talk about how those things affect us, how Christianity affects African Americans in different ways than maybe other subcultures within the culture. Yeah, absolutely. The very first thing is that I feel freedom. Freedom to live my life the way I want to live it. Now, when Christians hear that, they not all of them, but some of them tend to say, okay, that means that you want to sin and you want to do those things. Actually, I think I'm a better person because I left Christianity, and here's why. Number one, I'm not forced to be in a box. Number two, I'm able to explore every other religion that I want to, and I'm able to take bits and pieces of learning from everything that I've studied and kind of mix it together and say, okay, this works for me. My circle of friends have expanded. You know, as a Christian, you oftentimes hear, you know, don't be unevenly yoked. Don't be friends with people who are not Christians. Again, this is not everybody, but there's a segment of the Christian population that believes or tells you that if these people are not Christians, then you can't be friends with them. Some of my best friends, some of the greatest people that I know are non-believers, are non-Christians. Some of them are even atheists or agnostic people. And so I have benefited, and my life is much richer because I have these people in my life. Also, not believing or not being a follower of Christianity, and through my studies, I've realized that heaven and hell does not exist. And so again, that takes a weight off of my shoulder that I'm not worried about, oh, am I going to hell? Am I going to burn in this eternal hell? Because some Christians, whether they know it or not, are living a stressed life because they're always trying to do, I got to do this, I got to do that, I can't do this, can't do that because I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell, and I want to go to heaven. So all that is taken away from me. So I just feel much freer. My circle of friends are so much better. I think I know that I am a better person because now I treat people the way they need to be treated because they are also human beings. Not because I'm trying to score points with God so I can go to heaven or stay out of hell. Simply because I'm human and they're human. And that's the human thing to do. And so that in itself, that makes me a much better person. So yes, my life has changed tremendously, and I believe much for the better. Also, it's made me, believe it or not, it's made me learn more about Christianity. I've probably studied Christianity more in the last 5 or 6 years than I did the first 40 plus years that I call myself a Christian. So my position, not only has it not changed, but it's become stronger because I have studied Christianity. If you talk to an atheist, they'll tell you that the number one way to create an atheist is to have a person really read and study the Bible. And they're absolutely right. Absolutely right. I would say seeing some people that you consider friends who have turned their back on you or are no longer friends or no longer have a conversation with you or think certain things about you that's not necessarily true because you're no longer a Christian. I would say that would be the hardest thing. My mother, our relationship is funny because growing up and in my 20s and even my 30s, we were really close. I think that relationship started to change even before I left the faith because I became, in my mother's eyesight, I became somebody different. And when I say different, not different in a bad way to me, but I started exploring life and I became what I call a citizen of the world. I ate different foods. I traveled places that she had never heard of before. I read things that she would not have read before. I got into African spirituality and learning more about my African ancestor and the African homeland and those things, which did not sit well with her. And that's a whole nother YouTube channel, let alone a YouTube interview or whatever, speech or whatever. But yeah, so even prior to that, she had started to look at me kind of differently. But I've always kind of been that person that kind of was independent and wanted to do my own thing. So our relationship, where it suffered, it was already suffering somewhat. And so that wasn't as bad as having my peers, people I grew up with, people around the same age group that I am, who unfriended me on social media platforms or, no longer have anything to say to me. And this is just the things I know. It's probably 10 times that going on behind the scenes, things that I don't know. So yeah, that's, that was probably the hardest thing. But it is what it is. I believe in what I believe in. I believe that I'm doing the right thing. I believe it works for me. And so I'm 100% pursuing it. No problem whatsoever. So my current belief system, and we talked about this earlier, but again, it's easier for me to tell you what I don't believe. And so let's start there. I just to be clear, I do not believe in any God of any sort, any deity of any sort, any religion whatsoever. I don't believe in the devil either, for that matter. More than I'm a little bit of a humanist. I am definitely a skeptic, a non-believer. I'm not an agnostic per se. I'm not an atheist per se. I'm just a person who, I would say I'm a non-believer. But here's the thing. This whole thing is a journey, and I enjoy the journey. I love the journey. I'm learning more and more about religion. I'm learning more and more about people. I'm learning more and more about myself. And so the most exciting part about this is just it's the journey. And if you ask me the same question a month from now, I might have in part a different answer. I think the only thing, and I'm sure that the only thing that will remain the same is that I don't believe in a deity or a God of any religion per se. Anything outside of that is subject to change. Yeah, that there are a lot of books. I think my Audible library, my wife and I, we share Audible. It's up to about 90 books, and I would say probably a quarter to a third of those books it's about spirituality, about religion, and then I have a whole collection of books that I've been reading as well, the actual books that I read. But I would start off by telling you to do some research, YouTube videos that talk about whatever questions or concerns you may have. And then there are authors that I would suggest to you. I think it's Dan Barker, um, Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, uh, Anthony Penn, Cone. I can't remember. He's an African American gentleman. Wrote in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Last name is Cone. But there are a multitude of books on the subject. I've read books, The God Virus, The Historicity of Jesus Christ, God is Not Great, The History of Religion, any books about the history of religion. So there's a ton of information out there. And then I've done individual research on how Christianity came about, how religion was started, the evolution of mankind, which includes how we started with religion. It's so much information, and I literally either listen to one of the Audible books, read an actual book, watch a podcast or something on YouTube, literally every day, learning more and more and more and more about what's going on with this journey that I'm on. So I tell people all the time, I said, when you leave a faith that you was born into and you spend 40 plus years in that faith, that is not something that you do, just off a whim, at least for me and most people that I've spoken with. So I've done tons of research and tons of reading and tons of watching stuff on YouTube to get to where I am. And it's not for confirmation per se, because I want to, if there's any challenges or questions that I have, I want to address those as well. So I look at it from both sides. I spent, how many ever years, reading the Bible, or at least listening to people tell me about the Bible and what readings that I did do. And so now I'm open to the other side. And so I've learned about all of the other different religions and how religion came about, and, religions prior to Christianity and since Christianity, and how they all mix together and come about and all of that. So there are a ton of readings, but I will begin with some of those authors that I listed to you as well, and then some of those books as well. Great question. So let's see. So as I said before, this would be my fourth book, third published book. This will be the first book on the subject of religion and leaving Christianity and my journey. So that book would be published in the next couple of months, I would say. And what I hope to do with that is have that book be a way to have me able to speak on this subject. I am a speaker. I've been speaking for years, but I'm changing gears, and I only want to speak on this subject for the most part, because I think it's an important subject. It's something I'm truly, truly passionate about, and it's something that I'm very knowledgeable about. So I'm using the book as a platform to help me to speak professionally, and just address those issues for people. I'm going to be going in that direction from a career standpoint. My wife and I, we own several e-commerce businesses, and we do some other stuff. We are entrepreneurs. We have been for the last 12, 13 years. And so, but off of that, my life's work That's a good way to put it. Yeah, my life's work is going to be what I'm doing now, which is working with individuals and working with organizations, trying to spread the word to help people to become free from religion, especially African Americans, free from religion, free from Christianity, if that's what they choose to be and choose to do. So that's going to be my life's work. And so I will be out speaking, maybe even write more books, as much research and study as I can do, participate in forums. And so any of you who want to have me come in to your organization, contact me, WOCartwright at yahoo.com. I also have a new website that's in the works now. We've had to create and change some things from the old website that I used to have. That'll be up and running in the next month or two as well. But right now, for the meantime, you can contact me via email, WOCartwright, CARTWRIGHT at yahoo.com. And if you want to have me come in and speak about this subject and my journey and where I am on this path, because I think it's interesting. I think there are a lot more African Americans, especially the younger generation, that are exploring, that are asking questions, that are on themselves are on a journey, and I'm here for that. Okay, so if you wanna follow me on Facebook and you are not extra sensitive, then you can follow me I'm under the alias WC O'Neal. There I just post a lot of things that make people laugh, make people think, make people angry. I post memes. I do talk some politics on my page, but it's always religion, politics, race, the things that they tell you not to talk about. So I'm that person. You can follow me. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Save to Sane. TikTok is the same thing. You can see my TikTok videos or whatever under Save to Sane on TikTok. And I think that's for right now. Instagram, it's Willie Cartwright 1906 on Instagram. And Instagram is very similar to the things I do on Facebook. And so I think that's it. And you can reach me again via email at WO, so for Willie, and my middle name, WO Cartwright, CARTWRIGHT at yahoo.com. This has been great. This is a kind of quick and dirty way of getting to know me and what I'm doing. Please follow me on some of the social media outlets and learn more about me and my journey. I'm always open to questions. I am a fierce debater. I would not let it go. So if you're not a fierce debater, then you can ask a question. I answer the question. But if you want to debate, I would tell you two things. Be prepared to go on, and please know your stuff, because I know my stuff. So that's just a warning. But this is a great journey. If you have questions, you have concerns, and you were like me, I have questions and I couldn't get the answers, where do I turn to? Because I tell people all the time, I didn't leave Christianity because of church hurt. Things happen in every church, in every organization. I'm in a multitude of organizations and things happen all the time. So it wasn't church hurt that I left. But let me tell you the process for most people. We have questions. We ask those questions. Those questions are not answered in a sufficient way. If you're the younger generation, they ask questions. You attempt to answer it. They go to Google or another source, and it's totally opposite of what you say. So now, like us, those individuals, those of us who decide to explore it even deeper, say, okay, if they couldn't give me the correct answer to that, or they was lying about that, or they didn't know the answer to that, what else is it? So then you start to explore, you start to do your research, you start to do more and more research, and then you start to apply reasoning, logic, and you do a critical analysis. And that is usually what gets you from being a believer to a non-believer. That is it. It's not church hurt. It's not, I guess I really wasn't a Christian at all. It's what's natural is that we should have questions about anything. No matter what organization, no matter what we're part of, we should have questions. And when those questions are not sufficiently answered, then you start to do more research, start answering more questions. And that's just like a thread. You start pulling and pulling and pulling. And then you get to the core of it and you're like, wow, this was nothing like I really thought it was. And that's how most believers become non-believers. So thank you for listening to me and coming to my channel. Have a great day.